Okay, another cut. But if this one gets interrupted, you're just gonna have to deal with it. My boys busted down my door looking for something a minute ago while I was neck deep in trying to demo this thing. Actually, I took a minute to also fix something that I ran into on the first take on this. So let's just try this again. Here we go. I'm going to try to demo my Overkill ToDo app. Everybody needs to do a ToDo app once in a while. And mine features several, I don't know what the other is, probably readmes. It features several different languages. So the idea here was to build a simple ToDo app, and then on top of that, complicate it just a little bit by making each of the CRUD operations in a different service that we post to. We're using React on the front end, and we'll dive into each one of these a little bit as we go after the demo of the app working. So my goal is to just kind of clone it, run it. I should have the images, but I don't have any of the containers, and I don't have the volumes for the database. I want everything to stand up. The reason why I left the images built is because it takes probably like 10 minutes, and I really don't want to have to deal with that again. So what I'll do, I'll go ahead and kind of run through the getting started bit, and then we'll come back and we'll actually open it up in VS Codium and or VS Code, whatever it's called. I use the Codium one. Yeah, we'll kind of just talk through each one of these. We'll talk about Haskell and anyway, whatever. So let's do this. So we got PowerShell is what I'm going to be operating in mostly. We clone it, jump into it. Let's just go back and let's follow directions and see how that goes. 2 is very much solved for us, so let's just copy this one, paste anyway, and bring it up. So as you can tell, they came up pretty quick. If they weren't built, if those containers weren't built, or images, I should say, if they weren't built, you'd be looking at about a 10-minute, 5 to 10 minutes of build. And it's the Haskell container that takes the most time. I don't know what I've done, or maybe that's just the way it is. But I think Haskell, Erlang, and Rust, they all take the most time to build. Rust isn't so bad on the build time, but for what little bit the create service, which is the Haskell service, does, it takes a long time. Maybe I could figure out how to make that a little quicker. So if we look over here now, we're going to see the MySQL. It's MariaDB, I think. Let's look at our containers. There's my boys Minecraft server. Now we have so these are all the different CRUD operation servers, and there's a API gateway and a front end being served as well. You could put the front end on something like Cloudflare, or CloudFront if you wanted to. Probably no problem there. So the front end is being, just because of collision on the API or on the API gateway, I'm running the front end on 3000. So that just need to be aware of that. And the front end looks like I built it. I am not a front end designer. What you'll find though is pretty cool. So we'll kind of look at the demo, and then we'll go look at how everything works. So as you can tell, there's a few to-dos already in here. They are done in an init script that the container can run. So MySQL can run that once it's mounted in the right place. So you have the so let's test the create. So we're gonna need to do create, and then everything's gonna happen on the fly. But if I refresh it, it'll still be there because it's in the database at this point. So there's our CR. We're reading update. So let's do, let's just new to do. Let's just save that, and then so there's your update, and then finally for your delete, function, you can delete those and see that they're actually gone. And now let's hop over to, let's do this in Codium here. All right, so the first thing we'll take a quick look at is our Docker Compose. We are passing in this very simple, very secure passwords here of or credentials, let's say, just not just password. That was a copy from here. That's what our README had stated to do. So before you deploy this app to production, make sure you change these. This is just a SQL dump of the database as it was when I was ready to be done with this thing. So if you look in the here, what it's doing is it's just mounting it here at this entry, and then on the first time that this thing boots up, it will run that init SQL. The phpMyAdmin that was there, I'll put that there. When I first started working on this thing, I just left it. At this point, you don't need it, need to use it, but it was kind of useful to get some of these up and running. And then we have each of the services. So we have the create service, which was built in Haskell. So we can look at it. What it's going to do is, it's going to go in that directory and build that particular Docker file, which is kind of simple. I think, we're using Cabal. It's probably actually spelled different, but there's a legacy 3000 there, which we're not even using. The port does get exposed as 5001, I think, for this one, and you can see that here. So let's look at the app code itself. One of the more recent things I did to it, just to kind of put a pin in where I wanted to leave this, was pull in environment variables, because I think all 4 services had a hard code of database credentials, which was a little bit of a pain in the beginning, and I should have done this in the beginning, but I ended up doing this so I could do the .env for the Docker Compose and not have to copy for each one of these services. You could just pass the name of the environment variable that you wanted. Okay, so if we look back at here, we're going to see, so yeah, you're building your to-do data type basically, and then the only thing this one does is it listens for for the post to for ToDo/ToDo. This entire thing works on HTTP verbs, so you have the with the post, the get, the put, and the delete HTTP verbs, and we'll see those in the API gateway here in a second and show you how they route. They actually route fairly simple. I wanted this thing. So two of the last things I did was have this JSON payload come back to you with the ID and the title. That's how it displays on the front end when you create one. When it comes back, it needs the front end actually wants to see that object, basically the JSON object. So put that in there, and so we have a create. Let's do let's go through the read. We'll just see the CRUD. Go. So Haskell. I'll take a minute and talk about the. I had never been exposed to Haskell or Erlang before this. In my time, I've done Rust, I've done Go, but Haskell was not one of them. And just getting used to some of this stuff, just the way. Let's see here. I guess just the way you put these operations in the types and stuff was just. It was very hard, and I did use ChatGPT to try to get me somewhere. But I spent a lot of time, especially on Haskell and Erlang, just watching videos and reading documentation, just the actual documentation, trying to understand what the errors that I was running into, because You can paste it into GPT all day long, and it will keep giving you answers, but they're not right. So you have to you end up between it and what you read in the documentation, you end up coming up with what actually works. And yeah, I'm pretty happy. When I was able to post to this service and it actually created the database, I was just out of this world. I was just like, I cannot imagine, what my life be like. Another 5 minutes of me sitting here trying to figure this out, because I think the Haskell one took the longest. Now, that's probably just because my frame of mind was not in the, hey, we got to learn new stuff, So yeah. Anyway, let's get on to the read service, which is nothing more than the main.go. Here you go. So we're pulling in some of the standard stuff, OS for the variables. This expand thing was kind of new to me. I'd never done that before. It was quite nice. There's probably better ways to do this, but it got what I want done. The only thing I probably would do here eventually, and I got around this by the way I'm displaying on the front end, is put one for a singular fetch. Instead, with your read, you typically want to read, all or paging somehow, and then a singular. So you pass /ID, whatever it is, probably :ID or something like that. Yeah, and then what are we doing here? So we just get those. It's running through. It's just looping through those, appending it to that, and then you get sent those back on the front end, which works quite well for this. There's not a lot to say with this one. It took me a little while to figure it out and get it all working. Not near. I would say what did we do? We did Haskell, Erlang, Go, Rust. So the front end with Node, TypeScript, and all that stuff was no problem. Rust and Go were probably 1 to 5 difficulty. For me they were probably 2, 3. But Haskell, I think, just maxed it out. And Erlang, I spent a lot of time looking through documentation just for the Erlang, just for what little bit the Erlang service does. Man, it took a long time. Okay, so let's get through. Yeah, we're kind of done with this one. There's not a lot going on here other than that. They all have one endpoint, which is kind of nice. I do not plan on adding a layer authentication. You would probably, you could probably set it up, at the gateway level or something like that, depending on where this thing was deployed, and some sort of SSL termination and stuff like that. You could do in front of all this, unless you needed it end-to-end encryption. Let's see here. Let's do CRU. Where's our U? This is built in Rust. So I don't have a ton of experience in Rust, other than I've built some very small, I wouldn't even call them applications. They're just scripts that pull data from APIs, from like two or three different APIs, and combine the data together, and basically massage the data the way it needs to be, presented, or at least for ingestion, and then hand it off. So I didn't have a ton of experience going in here, but when you look at this, it's not so bad compared to the Haskell and Erlang stuff, comparatively. It did take me a little bit. I had to come back a couple times, because what I ended up doing here was I wanted to respond back with the ID and the new data, basically, because you're trying, when you're doing the update. You want that reflected on the front end as well. Let's see here. Nothing else really super interesting to call out. Like I said, on the read side of things, I wouldn't mind a singular endpoint to hit for just one record. But the way you saw in the demo, it works because you're editing in line or on the list. So that's why it works that way. Let's see here. So like I said, I came back here. So this was the wrapper on everything, was to go through all 4 services and put a environment variable extraction on them. So just learning how to do that. It was kind of fun. And then this was a bit different compared to what I'm used to. Let's see here. So that takes care of that one. That brings us down to delete on the CRUD operations, and then we'll kind of look at the front end of it. And this was the Erlang. Like I said, Haskell, I think, was the most, I don't want to say, like, I think the most time-consuming one was Erlang, but it didn't give me such a just bang my head against the wall or desk or whatever you want, whatever's near at the time. Experience that Erlang did. Erlang took a lot of time, and I guess at that point my mind was already, hey, we got to go figure this out. So working through that, and then let's just take a quick peek. Yeah, so even when I look at this, I sort of understand what's going on. You have your functions here, I guess, and then you're passing maybe methods inside of them or something like that. I sort of can wrap my head around this, and if I had to build out the full CRUD set of services in here, it would probably help. If I really cared about Erlang, I don't know. If I ever end up working in it, I will, dive into it. But otherwise, I'm just gonna breezily walk on by it at this moment because I don't really feel like stepping into it again. We get all of them have the ports like 5,000, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're at the fourth one because I built them in the CRUD order, CRUD, using Cowboy for the HTTP server. And I think if you look at, so this is sort of like the blueprint or the definition, and then here's the actual delete handler. This is where we pass the ID off to the delete function. There's some extra comments in here because I was having a really hard time and getting it to hit the database. I was getting responses from Erlang at some point, and I felt like it was working. But then when I actually got into here, it was actually dying out basically before it ever called. Where's it getting called? Yeah, up here. So I was getting like to here, and I had something else here that I ended up. Maybe I wasn't pulling the ID off right or something like that. But regardless. So like I said, one of the last things I've done was put, that as an addition, and you can see I went and I don't know if that might be part of the Git history or not. I kind of waited till I was pretty much done to really start working with Git history, which is, or usually I'll work with Git history a lot, and then I'll just reset it before I upload it. That's the way a lot of my like Unity projects are and stuff like that. So we got, get your ID, you create your basically your connection, and you fire off the query, and if it comes back good, we get responded to deleted, and we don't need to respond back with it. I don't really care about the other than the 200. I don't really care about anything else. And then obviously if you get your connection failed or something goes wrong, you have those there. Okay, so that's sort of a walkthrough, and I don't need to save anything there. The CRUD operation services, I should say, and then we have the front end, which is just a V React app. Is actually quite simple. If you look at the app TSX here, you can see that we're fetching all of them. We add a couple of functions here that get called later on in the list part for the update and delete. So the on update, on delete. So those functions are just getting passed down to the component here, and then not really sure what all the red's just freaking out on me right now, probably because I've got like all the languages in this one repo. Cannot find module yet, so that's not really worried about that one. This is TypeScript, and it compiles and stuff, so I'm not, we're looking at it at a high level. But if you go in here and you just pull that one, just open that one up, it'll link up and find all that the goods. Let's see here. Yeah, Axios for all those calls. And like I said, we're doing the verbs, and that's good. That's a good segue into the way the API gateway works. So, for my intents and purposes, I'm using NGINX as basically a proxy gateway, and then that can be seen. So, we'll close these and take a peek. So, in Docker Compose, if you look at these, let's collapse some of these. Find our API gateway. So, right here. You can see that all it's doing is mounting this API gateway into this the NGINX configuration folder, the default conf, read only there. So if you look at that particular file here, so API gateways, it's right here. There's a couple things going on here. You have to worry about cores, which is a because we're operating at 3,000, API gateway is operating at localhost, which is on 80 in this particular case. This can all be configured to whatever you desire, right? And besides that, once an application, not this particular application, but once an application like this with a lot of different services is going to be up in the cloud or on a deployed however it is. Kubernetes worker, Cloudflare worker, whatever, they're gonna have their own addresses and possibly ports. So here, to make sure this works from GitHub to your computer to the Docker up, we have this in play. So this allows the not only the cores but the methods that we need to do all our HTTP verbs with. So we have the get, post, put, delete is the main one. I think options comes through that your browser kind of like prefetches. I think those. So anyway, the way I handle this is we have /todo. Gathers all this. So no matter what service you're trying to use, it's entirely dependent on the verb that you're sending across. So delete, goes to the delete service, and then if you go look at the delete, you'll see that /todo is the endpoint, and then it pulls the ID off of that. So just real quick, you can go here and look at the handler, I think it is. Where is it that tells me my actual endpoint? Right there. So it's saying, hey, whenever you get this endpoint. So you can actually hit all these without using this particular gateway. It's just I did it for simplicity. If you didn't do that, then in the front end, everywhere, so like on the app.tsx here, you would actually call, where's the delete function? Use delete must be on the item itself. Yeah, so you would actually call the port number on, the actual address. In this case, it would be localhost, but the port 5004, whatever it is. The gateway just kind of makes it nice that, they're very clean URLs that you're working with. Anyway, yeah, go back there. So that's pretty much the rundown on this. The only other thing, I think I did that. Yeah, I think we pretty much kind of worked our way through the whole thing. And that's my Overkill ToDo app. It's written in four different languages, plus the front end, I guess. I wanted to come up with something different, and I guess throw a authentication layer with, I don't know, what's probably like C# or something like that, and then pass JWT to each one of these services or something like that. A JavaScript web token, I think, would work for the authentication. But like I said, it depends on where you want authentication. You may just terminate in front of some of the stuff. So that may not work for some people. It depends on what level of security you want. Respect my authority. Okay. All right, I think that's it. I don't really have plans on like working on this thing anymore. It is a 2.5, almost 3 day project. You know, by the time I get done recording this and posting the video, which I don't plan on doing any editing on, I think I'm done with it for now, and just if somebody's interested in it, welcome to ask questions about it, or take it and do something with it of your own. Yeah, just I think it's pretty. Yeah, so it's like I wrote, it's pretty much a joke, and I was laughing about it when I was telling my wife. She did not think it was funny, but when I reflect on that and I do a retrospective about it, in our retrospective, I would say something like, it makes sense that she didn't think it was funny because not many people would think it was funny. Anyway, now I am going to, as it says, quit dodging the honey-do list and go show my face to the family. Now that I finally got this done. All right. Yeah, appreciate you watching, taking time to run through all this with me.